Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and remind you that Neil Blomkamp is actually making another RoboCop movie.
What?
I'm your host, Ashley Hobley, and joining me today is Dylan Blight.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah,
I didn't even
apparently
know.
it was a thing from ages ago, but he just came out recently on Twitter and said that the original RoboCop design is going to be in the new film.
You've got me Googling on the live. Robot Cop Returns is what IMDb says. RoboCop Returns. RoboCop Returns to Fight Crime in Detroit. Will this be a continuation of the reboot or?
I think it is a sequel to the original, if I remember correctly.
It says the film is based on a screenplay that was from the original. Okay, well there you go. There's your interest. There's interesting use of the day.
Interesting old news.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of What Do You Want to Watch?
All right, we got a lot to cover because there is a lot in our watch history this week. We'll be talking about some news, and then we'll be talking about the movie we ended up watching this week, which was This Is England.
Oi!
Oi! But let's jump into our watch history. If you're not subscribed to our review discussions by Explosion Network podcast, you might not have seen that we did a review discussion of Spider-Man Far From Home. First off, released on a Monday. Super weird. I don't know how I feel about it. On one hand, I feel good because we can talk about it on the episode, and it's current-ish. But on the other hand, it's on a Monday, which is weird.
It was a bit weird. I suppose I didn't really put it together, to be honest.
I don't know why it was on the Monday.
I don't know. Usually early releases are what, Wednesday?
I'd do a day advance screening, and then Thursday release.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is Thursday's 4th of July. But that's not a thing here.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but because it's a worldwide release, maybe the 4th of July still affects it, I guess.
I guess. I don't know. It was weird.
Because when's the 4th here? Friday or no? What's today's date?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, it probably is because of that. Then I guess. Yeah.
I guess. Anyway, it was weird. We talked about it there, but that's full of spoilers. So, Dylan, do you want to just give your overall unspoilery thoughts on Spider-Man Far From Home?
It's a perfectly fine Spider-Man movie where you got the Tom Holland being the Tom Holland and everyone loves the Tom Holland. And then you got Zendaya being Zendaya and everyone loves Zendaya. And then you got Jake Gyllenhaal being, I wouldn't say exactly Jake Gyllenhaal, but it's Jake Gyllenhaal and we all love Jake Gyllenhaal. And then you got Nick Fury and there's people and the spiders and webs and it's fine. To me it's a rather forgettable Spider-Man movie, but that's fine. I enjoy it when I watched it, and then it's not one I'd return to. I'd rather watch Homecoming again.
Yeah, I think I liked it more than you did, but then I also liked Homecoming more than you did, Mr. 7.5.
Yeah, everyone's like, 7.5 for Homecoming. You hate movies. Ooh.
Yeah, it's true. It was more of the same, more Spider-Man, which you can't complain about. I think probably the things that kind of let me down is just the humor was a bit hit and miss in certain parts. But I felt like they did the Mysterio story as best as they possibly could. And that is a character that I think people had difficulty imagining on the big screen, or like in a realistic-ish story. But I think they pulled it off pretty impressively.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've kind of proved themselves after bringing a talking raccoon to life and people taking that serious.
No, that seems realistic.
At this stage, if they can pull any villain and character out, and I'm like, all right, see what's happening, see how we go.
Yeah, and there's some impressive visual sequences in this film. Some of the best.
Yeah, there is.
And
you can't talk about it without spoilers, obviously, but that's definitely the standout stuff, I think. Especially from the John Watts. It's John Watts, isn't it?
Yeah.
From him as the director is doing those specific, really different scenes that you haven't got in a Spider-Man movie before. And then also the big talking point that everyone especially today because it's dropped in America today, and I've seen everyone on Twitter talking about it. Is everyone's obsessed with the mid credits scene, and rightfully so. So that's it's. Although I do think it says something about the movie when everyone's key talking point for it is
what's next.
What's next, not anything actually to do with the movie. They're like talking about the mid credits scene and what that means for the future, rather than talking about stuff that actually happens in the movie. But yeah.
But what's coming next, speculating about what's coming next isn't spoilers, but talking about what's in the movie is spoilers.
Everything's spoilers, and it's just best if we don't talk about anything ever again.
All right. We also watched Toy Story 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me get my guy here. I know it's an audio podcast, but I'm going to pull out my Forky.
Mr. Forky.
Next to a microphone, so we're a team.
Why am I alive?
Why am I alive?
Oh, so good. Obviously, I came into this film trepidatious because obviously Toy Story 3 ended on such a perfect note. But I think this is pretty great. Pretty fantastic film. I think it is... I feel like this is the most adult, probably, of the Toy Story films.
It's hard to pick which... Like, I'd say it's... Number 3 is adult as well. This is...
That's true.
It's kind of like... I always think... Because the first one came out when I was like a year old or 2 years old, whatever it was. And then the second one came out and I saw that at the cinemas when I was like 5 or 6 or something, you know. So I kind of grew up with the movies releasing. So I always thought of the Toy Story movies, their level of adult content kind of grew as I grew older. You know what I mean? Like,
there was like 11 years between 2 and 3, and now 9 years between 3 and 4. So everybody's probably people who saw the originals instead were now working on the films.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think it might be the funniest of all the films, I think. There are some pretty funny gags littered through the films. I've seen a lot of like deep theoretical thoughts of the different themes and meanings of different things throughout the film. It's almost a horror movie at certain points.
It is. This is because I watched the movie with Shree, and when we left, that's all she was talking about. How just on and on and on about. I mean, it's not really a big spoiler. There's like freaky doll characters in it. And I was like, yeah, it's like a horror movie. And the film's aware that they're like a horror movie. It knows it's supposed to be scary. So.
Well, it's not even that. Forky is technically Frankenstein. Or Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, but he doesn't look scary. He's just like, why am I alive?
Yeah.
Trash?
Yeah. And that, to get into another time, there's talk about all that as well. Like, is that an allegory for LGBTQ people? And then that people are taking the wrong way?
Well, I haven't got that. I didn't even know that was a
saw that on
theory.
Yeah, but yeah. What did you enjoyed it overall?
I really like it. And my hot take, is that I think I would enjoy it more than 3, which I know is like everyone kind of puts 3 as the best one, and I wouldn't say number 4's getting. Well, it's either that or 1. I feel like everyone's either 1 or 3 people vote as the best one. And I wouldn't say 4's getting hated on, but I have seen a lot of like, oh, you know, it didn't need to exist. Don't know why they made the film, blah, blah, blah. You know, that sort of mentality about it. And my answer to that is I feel like the film neither needed to exist nor didn't need to exist. And I'm not trying to say that as a bad thing. I'm just saying that I felt the story they told was good and I'm glad that I watched it. But at the same time, it wasn't super necessary for the franchise either. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a necessary story, but at the same time, it was a good story.
Yeah, so, it was just another awesome story in that universe, telling another facet of how toys come to life.
Yeah, and there's
we're saying like all how they would survive in that world, I guess. Yeah,
yeah, and there's like more the stuff we're saying before, like the more adult themes about. To me, I guess the movie's about. If 3 is about growing up, like learning how to be a young adult, I guess. Like a young adult, like being Andy, I guess, in the movie, and like learning how to be that age. Then this movie's like learning how to be in your mid-20s or early 30s type thing and learning how to
See, I've heard
move
very
on.
different. I've heard somebody describe it as being about parenthood, because obviously Woody takes care of Forky, and then has things to do with Bonnie as well.
Yeah, that
And then
could be one way.
people have also said it's a baby boomer movie about how baby boomers should let the next generation to take over and get out of the way.
I suppose that's one of the good things about it. There, you could kind of take the, you could take it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just I took the themes it was showing me as a lesson about how to move on from certain things,
Yes,
or
definitely.
learning how to let go. And you could take those themes and put them in many different directions, like you just said, like being a parent or learning to move on from your kids as they grow up, or anything like that. But to me, I just saw the themes as just that, and you could be applied to like friendship groups or jobs, locations, yeah, anything. You know what I mean? It could be applied to a lot of things. So yeah.
I really enjoyed Key and Peele's characters. There was one joke that involves getting a key that I couldn't help but laugh at.
They're quite funny.
It's such a simple joke, but yeah.
Yeah. I laughed a lot at them. I probably laughed the most at Forky though, just because it's a funny character.
Yeah, it is.
And then also the addition of Bo Peep being a kick-ass in this one was quite good.
Yes, I enjoyed that they filled in that gap of how she was missing between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And that
explain
that opening sequence was very impressive. Like, animation, I think they made it rain because they weren't like, damn, we can make it rain.
Well, I cried 2 times in the movie. I teared up 2 times in the movie. The first time was at the start, like after that sequence. Like that kind of fills in the gap. And then also teared up right at the end again as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It hits you in the feels at the end.
I think the only issue people might have is Buzz has barely anything to do in this film.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's my ruling. If you're like a massive Buzz fan, then maybe this movie is going to tick you off, but I don't care. Buzz's story is over at this point, so his role in the movie being a lot smaller makes sense for the character because his story got resolved, more or less. And Woody's, you could look at 3, like you could look at the third movie and be like, everyone's story is resolved, blah, 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 blah. But the way they open this movie and the straight away with about Woody and what he's going through, it's very obvious, like, well, he has unresolved things here, but Buzz is fine. Everyone else is fine, you know? Like, everyone's good. So I don't need Buzz stories just pushed in for the sake of getting more Buzz on the screen.
Yeah. Cool. So I went and saw yesterday in the cinemas the new Danny Boyle, Richard Curtis film about a guy who has an accident and then everybody forgets who the Beatles are.
Makes sense.
One of the highest watched one of the Reacts videos by some margin. It's all right. I feel like it is pretty much just a romantic comedy with that base premise as a setup. The lead, Himish, I need to look up his name, but
Himish Patel.
Yeah, Himish Patel. He's super great. He's super likable. He's got a good singing voice. I feel like Lily James is really impressive in this film and does a great job. But I mean, it's such an interesting high concept that I don't feel they explore as much as I wanted to, and they don't need to do that. But I feel like it's a missed opportunity more than anything else.
I think everything you're saying makes sense, considering it was written by Richard Curtis.
Well, yeah, that's true. But I loved About Time, and I mean, that's also kind of high concept, but I feel like
at the core, it's still just a romance movie. So
yeah, but yeah, it was enjoyable. The other thing is, I feel like Kate McKinnon, she plays like a manager character. She feels like every other Kate McKinnon character ever, and she feels a little bit out of place in the film. She's a bit too over the top.
It's funny you say that because the only other thing I've heard about this movie is when I was listened to a podcast and they were talking about it, and that was their one big criticism was Kate McKinnon being out of place somewhat in the movie, and they were like, it's not her fault because she was told to be like, dude, Kate McKinnon.
They cast her to be Kate McKinnon.
Kate McKinnon, yeah. So seems like bad. If you're saying it, and I've heard it elsewhere, it just seems like that was a bad casting choice for her in that character, I guess.
Yeah. Also, Ed Sheeran's in this film. He's quite amusing. He plays like a sort of mentor to the main character.
Is he playing Ed Sheeran?
He's playing him. He's playing Ed Sheeran.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So his best acting role so far, just above Game of Thrones.
Just above Game of Thrones.
Quite far above Game of Thrones. Yeah. So maybe check that one out when it comes to streaming services. I saw that you watched Annabelle Comes Home, the latest in the Annabelle.
Well, it's a Conjuring universe.
Conjuring universe.
They do call it the Conjuring universe. It's the only other franchise apart from the Fast and Furious and the MCU that gets away with having trailers that say the next film in the Conjuring universe. But I mean, there's like fucking, I don't know, they're getting close to 10 films or something now in the whole series now, I think. This one's pretty good. The funny thing about these Annabelle movies is I still haven't gone back and watched the first one. So Annabelle came out in 2014. Haven't watched it. Annabelle Creation came out in 2017. I gave that a good review for the website. Can't remember, like an 8 or somewhere around an 8. I really enjoyed that one. And that one was like a proper prequel. This one comes home, if you can't tell by the name. This is shows you how the Warrens, which are the main characters of the Conjuring films, how they get the doll to the house, and the Warrens are played once again by Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. And then the rest of the movie basically takes place in their house because they leave for something or other. It has like a time jump. And then her kid is getting, their kid whose name is, I've got the thing open, their kid whose name's Judy is getting looked after by this other girl called Mary. And then one of her people that she goes to school with, this other girl called Daniela, shows up. And she's kind of wants to get around the house and snoop. And she's like trying to find, because there was a newspaper article published about the Warrens and being like, are they bullshit artists or are they really like ghost hunters? You know, some sort of like thing. And their kids getting teased at school because of what her parents do and all these sorts of things. And then Daniela, this is no spoilers there. This is all, of course, set up in the trailer. Daniela obviously lets out Annabelle, and then shit goes fucking crazy in the house because the Warrens keep a whole heap of heebie-jeebie, scary stuff in the house, and the ghosts and goyles and whatever else start showing up, and shit goes off. It's quite good. I enjoyed it. It's a lot of jump scary type stuff and some interesting things. I'd say one of the pluses that's also a minus is that it sets up a lot of new interesting backstories to a lot of the stuff that are in like the Warrens collection of stuff. That's kind of how all these movies have spun off, like Annabelle, the Nun, the whatever monster. Like all of these movies are spin-offs from creatures that are introduced in the Conjuring universe, the Conjuring films. And then Annabelle Comes Home, it shows you what a bunch more of those items in their collection room, what the history behind them is. But at some stage, it can't help but just feel like it's a teaser for like a whole bunch of more spin-offs that are probably going to come down the line. You know, like they'll randomly start at one stage. The girls are like looking for all these files and stuff before shit hits the fan in the house, and they're just like reading off facts like, "Oh, did you ever hear about the such and such killer? It does this, 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 this," and then they throw the piece of paper away, and it just sounds like a setup for another film that's probably going to come a year from now. It feels like a lot of the movies like that. The thing that kind of makes this movie stand out, though, is all of the performances are really, really great. So obviously, Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, for the time they're in it, they're fucking great. It's good to see them in those roles again. And I like how they come back for this small part in a spin-off movie, but like it helps glue together the whole universe, I guess, if like this universe they're building. But also then, McKenna Grace, who plays Judy, Madison Eisman, who plays Mary, and then Katie Saraf, who plays Daniela, are all really, really good young actresses of various ages and stuff. So, and they kind of hold the movie together because it doesn't turn into B grade level girls screaming and tripping over it. And, you know, like the very atypical, stereotypical girls horror movie type cliche actors stuff happening. They hold it together quite well. So I like that. Yeah, I mean, you even know if you're going to like this or you're not going to like this, but I feel like these movies continue to be made for not a lot of money, and they continue to get decent reviews for the most part, and they continue to make a lot of money, and that's why they keep making them and spinning them off.
Yeah,
and
Annabelle made $20.3 million in America over the weekend.
Yep. Doesn't surprise me. It's every single time they people will be like, who the fuck's watching these movies? And then they shoot straight to the number one box office or like close, depending on what's out at the time, these sorts of things. But it's like, yeah, that's why they keep making them. That's why they keep spinning them off, is because, and at the same time, the differences between like these Annabelle movies and like the differences between the two Annabelle movies I've seen, they're very different. And they stand apart on their own. And then also like The Nun and all the Conjuring movies they're all very different, but they're all just part of the same horror universe, I guess. So I enjoy it. I like the poster too. It was a fucking kick-ass poster. They had it on the wall in the cinema when I went and watched the Spider-Man the other day. I was like staring at it again. I'm like, I like this poster.
Cool. Well, speaking of McKenna Grace, I watched a film called Gifted, directed by Mark Webb. Also starring Chris Evans and Octavia Spencer and Lindsay Duncan and Jenny Slate. Pretty much she's a young child prodigy and he's the uncle who's been looking after her, kind of in secret.
I watched the trailer for this, I think.
Yeah, came out 2017, so it's a few years old. I really love this. It's really great. It's interesting seeing Chris Evans in roles not other than Captain America at the moment. But yeah, I thought he did a great job in this. McKenna Grace is amazing in this. I think she's probably one of the best young actresses out there at the moment. By a long
this
shot.
whole episode's turning into McKenna Grace, the reasons why she's great podcast.
Yeah, well, you look at her filmography. She's been in Designated Survivor. She was a young Carol Danvers in Captain Marvel. She was young Sabrina in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. She was in Haunting of Hill House.
Young Carol, Captain Marvel.
Yep, she played young I, Tonya in young Tonya in I, Tonya. And she's going to be in Ghostbusters. So her star keeps rising. It's crazy. But yeah, I thought this was great. Got super emotional. Definitely worth checking out. It's on Netflix. And then I also watched The Damned United, which is a sports biopic. Tells the story of Brian Clough, who's a football manager, or soccer manager over in the UK. Pretty much it's based around his 44-day reign as manager of Leeds United, which at the time was like the biggest club in the country. But it's intercut with him going up the ranks with his coach assistant, what's his name? Peter Taylor, played by Timothy Spall. And Brian Clough is played by Michael Sheen. And sort of his own internal rivalry and like him coming up the ranks, and then sort of his fabricated rivalry with John Revie, who used to coach Leeds United. And I thought it was a really interesting. Didn't know about him at all. Obviously, I like football, but not much football in it. It's just like a drama about this man's one-sided rivalry against another guy. He didn't even know he had an issue with him, so I enjoyed it.
That's a kind of rivalry I like.
Yeah,
the enemy doesn't know.
Yeah. So let's move on to the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. Dylan, you watched When They See Us, the new miniseries directed by Ava DuVernay? Or produced? Written?
It was written, directed, produced, everything. Just her it's basically her next film, because it's 4 episodes. They're like an hour. They're a bit over an hour each, so it's like a very long movie, obviously, but it just feels like one very long film. It's not like episodic kind of thing. But this is currently my second favorite TV series of the year. I'd put this just below Chernobyl. They're very different series. They have a connecting factor of both being based on true stories, though. But this is the story of the 5 kids who were referred to as the I can't remember now. The
Central Park 5?
Central Park 5, yeah, I was like mental blank. Central Park 5 is what the newspapers and everything deemed they were. This whole thing happened one night where a whole heap of kids and teenagers and, I don't know, there was probably some older kids, older people there as well. There was like all going through Central Park at one night, and, you know, there was some... a lot were just having fun. At the same time, a lot were, some happened to be going around and, you know, doing like robbing a couple of people and doing all sorts of bad things. But at the same time, while this is all happening, this woman gets horribly beaten near to death and raped, and she's left for dead. And of course, the cops were like, well, it's probably one of these young black teenagers because reasons.
Because
so
America.
they gathered them all up, and I mean, I don't want to spoil the whole thing in case you want to watch it, but once again, it's based on a true story, so it's like, well, that's true. How much can I spoil if it's a true story?
Yeah.
It's on Wikipedia, but basically they're wrongfully accused and bad things happen, and it's quite sad and horrible to watch. So the first episode kind of covers their arrests and like how that happens and sort of thing. Episode 2 goes into like court cases, and then episode 3 and 4 kind of show you they transition into adult actors as catches up to like more current day and what ends up happening with them. The only one actor, Gerald Jerome, he plays both the kid and the adult version, and he's the standout actor of all of the kids for that reason alone to me, because he actually makes such a transition, I guess, like from playing the kid version of the character to the adult version of him, whereas the others actually have different actors take over. Then other people in it that were quite interesting to see was like Vera Farmiga plays the she plays the
prosecutor, I believe.
Prosecutor. Thank you. I was like, what the fuck is the word? And then like the John Logies, I can never say his fucking last name. You know who I mean. How do you say his last name? John Logies. You know, old mate from what's a popular movie he's from? Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what you would have seen him from. You'd know him if you see him. Bloodline? You'll know. You'll see him and then you'll know.
Oh, John Leguizamo. Zemo?
Yeah. Is that how you say it?
Leguizamo.
Sure.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I'm struggling.
From Chef.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Chef. I should have just thought. I don't know how I didn't think of that. Yeah, he's in it. He's quite good. And so, Michael Kenneth Williams is in it. He's very good as well. And a couple of people, but also I'm forgetting Joshua Jackson's in it, which I quite enjoyed because I haven't seen Joshua Jackson in anything for quite some time. But standouts are going to be the kids and the adult version of their characters as well. And honestly, it's like super relevant to watch still to a point. It happened quite some time ago, but their case, without going too heavily into spoilers, like the way this ends up, the case in court and stuff was only a couple of years ago finalized or whatever you want to call it. And it's also super relevant because, and they do make sure to cover this in the TV series, rightfully so, is that when the kids were arrested, Donald Trump, at the time, real estate mogul, or whatever you want to call him, he paid for $120,000 or something, which at the time was, quite a lot of money. I mean, it still is, let's be honest. He paid for this like full page ad in the newspapers that called for the death penalty to be brought back to New York so he could have all the kids killed. And when the TV series came out, like a month ago on Netflix now, I think, when it came out, interviewer asked him about the series and like said if he does he feel bad and would he take back what he said? and he refused to say no because the arresting the main cop lady, I can't remember her exact job, to this day stands by that they should be in jail, all of these people. And Donald Trump still says that they should all still be in jail and stuff. So it ties in super relevant that way, and it obviously makes you think a lot. And it was hard not to watch it and just get angry about the fact that the person who called for these kids' death is the president of the United States. So that's quite disgusting. Also, I would say officially the thing that I can't think of anything else, but officially the thing that I reckon I've cried the most in all year so far is this TV series. It's heart-wrenching. It's just tough to watch. And then also on Netflix, they have a hour-long Oprah Winfrey special, which I watched as well, which you should watch.
They must have paid a lot of money to get it away from Apple. Was this before the Apple deal went through?
It's interesting because it's like it was made for her show. It was made to go on her network. But because Netflix publishes the TV series, I guess they made like a deal to have it appear there as well alongside the TV series.
No, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like
that's the thing that will get the most eyes on it, so.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes sense because then people like me, I'll finish watching a TV series, it pops up, and I'm like, yes, I would like to watch Oprah talk to the real life people and the actors and stuff, which is what it is. At first, she brings out old actors, and her and Ava DuVernay talk to the actors about how they took on the roles and these sorts of things. And I'm like, that's really interesting to a degree, sure. It's when they bring out the real life people and hearing them talk, it's like, that's when I'm crying, Oprah's crying. They cut to the fucking audience. Joshua Jackson's fucking bawling his eyes out. All of the actors are bawling their eyes out. Literally everyone's just crying in this whole thing, and I'm sitting there watching it like everyone. And that thing's really tough to watch too, because you can visually see and hear just how fucked up they are. Like they, especially two of them. Two of them are really. Just you can tell they're not okay at all still. So it's messed up. But it's obviously, as much as I'm saying it's messed up and it makes you want to cry and it's horrible, blah, 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 blah. Definitely must-watch TV for this year, I think. Must-watch.
Yep. So I watched one of the Netflix original films, Beats. They pushed pretty hard, I feel like. Starring Anthony Anderson and Khalil Everidge as the main character, August Monroe. Pretty much August, after a traumatic experience at the start of the film, he becomes a hermit, I guess, sort of. His mum keeps him at home all the time. He's like a teenager. He kind of stays in his room. He has PTSD, kind of. And he spends all his day making music. And then Anthony Anderson's character is going around trying to get kids to go back to school because of budgetary reasons. They need to show up to school to get money. That sounds like a thing in America. And he was an old music producer. And he hears him, and they stroke up a friendship, and he sort of mentors him and tries to get him into the music, get him a record deal, that sort of thing. There's a bunch of twists and turns. It's pretty fine. It's a good film, I guess. If you're into that hip hop or beats or whatever, I guess.
If you're into them hip hop beats.
If you're into them hip hop beats. Yeah. It was an enjoyable watch. It was like a good hour and a half. It didn't outstay its welcome as well, which I thought was very good. So I also saw that you watched The Confession Tapes.
Yeah, I watched the first season. I reckon we talked about it on here. I feel like we did, but I don't remember. The second season only has 4 episodes. It's as interesting to me as the first season. Not as good, but it's still interesting. It's only 4 episodes, so it's like, I think the first one was like 6 or 8 or something. So I'm like, did they rush these out, or they like whatever? But the whole show just focuses on people who were wrongfully convicted. Well, they say they were wrongfully convicted. Not every episode has someone who's actually got out of jail, but they're people who say that they were wrongfully convicted. And I would also go as far as to say that the filmmakers would agree that they were wrongfully convicted, because the show very much always for these cases leans on the side that they are. Like, it's the way it's put together. You can tell that its narrative is trying to tell you as a viewer that they were wrongfully convicted, which I know a lot of people sometimes dislike when documentaries have a stance like that, I guess. But I'm like, I don't know. Like, isn't that the whole point? Like, you can take a neutral position on these things sometimes, but sometimes the story you're telling you have to pick a side, I guess. But there's super interesting. Like, this season, one of them was, they're all super interesting from the standpoint of you get to see just how fucked up cops are at point. Like, because a lot of time, the reason they get these false confessions from people is because they keep them in rooms for like 12 plus hours trying to get them to admit to something, and eventually they just mentally break to the point that they, I think, without thinking sometimes, or not even know what they're doing, or just because they want to leave, that the cops lull them into a false sense of security where they think that if they lie and say they did it, they'll be allowed to leave this hellhole of a small room they've been sitting in for 12 plus hours without food or anything like that. So one case was the two standouts to me of the season, though, would be this one case where these two dudes, they do that to one dude and get him into false confession, and he also names his like cousin or something like that. And then the cops like, yep, we've got our guys, this is good. And then they eventually end up tracking down, and the evidence points to these two runaway like teenagers who went around like robbing and stealing cars. And spoilers, fuck it, I'm just going to throw it out there. Spoiler at some point for this episode, the girl literally says, "We did it." And the cops are like, "You're lying. We've got two people in prison." And she's like, "Well, they're the wrong guys. I did it," because her conscience was like getting into it, and she just wanted to admit to what they'd done. Like, they'd killed the person, these two people they'd arrested. But the cops were so far up their own asses that they just weren't willing to believe the evidence or what people were saying or anything like that. And then one of the other really interesting episodes, I thought, because it was like a different point of view they hadn't tackled in the previous season, was the last episode this season tackles post, like just after 9/11, where like the FBI and stuff are going super hardcore, like trying to track down, like send people into mosques and shit to like as undercover agents to keep their eye on Muslims and such, So, and this one tracks how they arrest one younger teen for having, what would you call it? Like he has views. He expresses views of that aren't okay, I guess is how you'd say it. Like he expresses views that are sympathetic to jihadis, I guess. Like, but he doesn't actually do anything wrong, but it shows you just how like post 9/11, because America was so wanting to prevent the stuff before it actually happened, that they were willing to like put the pressure via this mole on a kid to get him to like try and say that he would do something because he's expressed sorts of views, so they could arrest him and bring him in and all these sorts of things. So, but yeah, it's interesting if you're into that sort of stuff, which I obviously am.
Yeah. Cool. So I watched a sci-fi movie called I Am Mother on Netflix. Originally debuted. What? Sorry?
I Am Mother.
I Am Mother.
Is that the one with the robot?
That's the one with the robot.
Okay, yep. Good.
Yeah, so it debuted at Sundance, got pretty good reviews, and then made its way to Netflix, starring Clara Ruger, Ruger, and Hilary Swank, the two main women. There's also a robot voiced by Rose Byrne. Pretty much the basic premise. I don't want to say too much because I feel like I think people should go in knowing very little, but Clara's character is a little girl, it's a human reproduction facility. Like, the mother character raises Clara's character, who's just referred to as daughter through the entire film, up till she's like, I think she's like 16, 17 in the film, and they think she's been told that there's gas outside, that they can't leave the facility, and then Hilary Swank's character shows up, and then stuff pursues. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. I think it's probably one of the top films I've seen so far this year.
That's big words. I think it's an Australian film too.
It was shot in Adelaide.
Yeah.
I assume there was a fair bit
I don't
of
think
financing.
it's a full. I'm going to assume it's a part and part financing. But
Yeah,
either way, you claim it somewhat.
Yeah, we'll claim it.
guess.
I think the robot design is really cool. Weta did a really good job. Obviously, they had a stuntman actually performing the role, like inside the suit, but Weta obviously added extra shininess and extra touch on top of it. But yeah, I think every time there's a bunch of twists. Every time I think I know what's happening, something else happens. So yeah, really good film. Definitely worth checking out. Again, on Netflix.
It's on my list.
It's on the list. And then I also watched Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Finally. You and everyone else on Twitter. Jesus Christ. What happened to this? I've never seen anime drop on Netflix and everyone just fucking lose their shit so fast.
Yeah, it's crazy. Obviously, you'd seen it back in the day, I assume?
I've watched it years ago. I could not tell you what happened because it was that long ago. But
yeah. Overall, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. Obviously, it's from this, I can see where certain other things have been stolen from it. Like different shots and different character things. I loved it until the last 2 episodes, which I think isn't surprising. I think that's a common thing that they ran out of budget back in when they were doing it. So the last 2 episodes are not quite what they wanted to do. But yeah, everything other than that was really enthralling. I kept watching episode after episode after episode. I didn't have a problem with obviously this is my first time watching it, so I can't say too much about the voice acting and the translation, but it seemed all fine to me. I don't understand why the penguin was there. It's never explained why the penguin is there. What purpose does he have in that house? I don't know.
My thing with the translation thing that everyone complains about, and this is just a general thing because I haven't watched this. I haven't watched the English thing. My general thing with be it translation or dubs, because they're different but same, I guess, to a degree, is that people don't understand that you can't just copy something that's written in Japanese in this instance, paste it in the machine, Google Translator, and then have English voice actors read that and it'll work out okay. Because they're different languages, not only by words, but also meanings, the way they say stuff, the way it's
some words can mean this exact same thing and be the same word.
There's just so much more to it that people just don't understand, and then people spit at this sort of thing from what I understood because they're like, well, in the original they don't even say that, they say this line. Why did you change the line? Why did you change the line for no reason? It's like, what do you people are really good translators, what they call it, localization people for anime, games, whatever, movies, foreign films in general. All that's their job isn't just copy paste to tell voice actor to do it. Their job is to sort out these things where it's like, well, these words mean the same thing, or this doesn't make sense, or in a Western speaking country, an audience, this joke isn't going to work at all, so we should have them say something else. That's part of their job. So, side note on that, because I was like, you people just don't understand at all.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed it overall. I think it's worth watching. There is one episode you can probably skip. There's a lot of anime. There's a clip show episode.
Yeah,
yeah.
Previously on with a total of 5 minutes of new footage.
Yeah, so that was fine. But yeah, that's everything. Let's move into the news. Dylan, did you know that this past Sunday, the Logies happened?
I did, because Twitter told me about an hour before it happened.
I didn't realize until I saw it trending on Twitter. I just looked at Twitter and said, oh shit, the Logies are on. That's weird.
Did you watch the whole thing?
No, I did not.
I was about to say, you're fucking insane.
Apparently, and I stand by this, there's probably only a few things that you need to watch. Mostly that Tom Gleeson won the Gold Logie.
Mm-hmm.
For
watched his speech.
Best personality on Australian television.
Yeah.
Watched his speech.
I did watch his speech. That's the amount of Logies I watched. Yeah.
Quote, I'm in a tricky spot. because I like it and I hate it at the same time. Turns out I'm just really good at manipulating the media to get people to do things for me, which, if you think about it, is why we're all here. So maybe I do deserve this award.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great speech. I think it was, to a certain extent, it pretty much signifies where the Logies is going. It's a popularity contest. It always has been a popularity
It
contest.
always has been. That's what I don't get. I don't get why
No,
everyone's
but
complaining.
I feel like in the past, it felt more like more deserving people. Not to say Tom Gleeson does deserve it, but he does a quiz show on the ABC that I'm sure doesn't do fantastic ratings, and then does one segment on the weekly on the ABC, which I'm also sure doesn't get great ratings.
Yeah, but like any other popularity contest, it comes down to who puts effort in.
It's true. I hold no grudge against him because he was great. He also opened the Logies, gave a scathing speech, opening monologue, blasting every single channel out there.
Yep.
And Karl Stefanovic.
Yep. I quite liked it because the Logies are shit, and then they're nothing awards, and that's why I didn't know they were on, because no one cares. Also, none of us actually watch Australian television shows, really. If I'm going to watch the weekly, I'll watch it on the ABC iView app or something. Or if I'm not going to watch the full episode, I'll just watch the random segment bits they'll put out on YouTube. You know, I never sit down and watch Australian television. Full stop. And I'm sorry. Maybe you're like, well, Dylan, you should support Australian television more. And I'll say, yeah, I do. I pay for Stan monthly. All right, there you go.
Yeah,
they're getting my money. They're doing anything. Australian television. No, I'm watching. I like to hear a joke about that. I also saw people complain and say, like, blah, 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 use the system. Someone else could have got up there and, supported. Someone else could have been up there and helped support, like, real causes and, like, give a moment to
he did
issues
support
that
a
matter.
cause.
And
his stand-up show at the Sydney Opera House.
all this sort of stuff, which usually I'm on that side. You'd expect me. But for this, I'm like, no, you're wrong. Because it's the Logies, and it's a popularity contest, and the Logies mean fucking nothing. And I love how he proved that they mean nothing. So good on
they
him.
mean something.
They mean fucking
Otherwise,
nothing.
he wouldn't have been trying to get it.
They mean absolutely nothing to no one other than.
I'll
TV
pull this other
Week.
quote from his speech. For me, it represents a joke, but I love jokes. I really enjoy them. I really think we should all lighten the fuck up. I really do. Which I thought was also a very good line.
Yeah, but this is my thing. Like, Tom Gleeson is funny sometimes. Other times I don't really like him. Sometimes he falls into the camp of where, like, especially that sort of line, like someone could be. It could be the week after the fucking mosque shootings, and he would come in and say that when someone makes a joke about them or something. Like, I'm not saying he would do exactly that. I'm just saying, as an example, I've seen him do similar things where he's rode the line of being like, "Oh, calm down, like serious issue," and they'll be like, "No, you just shut the fuck up. It's not the time for jokes right now. There's time for jokes and not time for jokes." And as far as I'm concerned, the time for jokes is at the Logies because the Logies are a joke. So at the moment, I'm a Tom Gleeson fan.
At the moment. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Can't believe you did you ever watch Skit House back in the day?
No.
There was a sketch comedy show on Channel 10 that he played. He was one of the people on it, famously playing the Australian fast bowler. So that was back in 2003. So you probably went old enough. It's fine.
I don't know what the first thing I would have seen him on. Maybe it would have been like Rove Live or something.
Yeah, probably one of those kind of shows.
Probably something like that would have been where I first saw him. Yeah.
I mean, he's been in the industry for a long time, so I guess.
Yeah, he's been around so long to the point that. Yeah, he's older than a lot of people working now. So it's not like some newbie came in and won the award and proved it wrong. It's like.
Yeah,
he's old enough.
Just glossing over some other important things. Added to the Hall of Fame was Kerry O'Brien, longtime newsreader. Did the 7:30 report for a long time. I heard he gave a very good speech. Fun fact, he gave the speech at my uni graduation. Coincidence.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. The one show that I saw everybody on the internet get very happy about was Bluey, won for most outstanding children's program.
Also the gardening show.
What?
Everyone was happy.
Oh, Gardening Stray also won.
Everyone was happy about that, and Bluey. I feel like they were the two outliners.
Costa Jordias won most popular presenter. Yeah. Everybody's happy with that.
Him and Bluey. Yeah.
Bluey also recently in the last couple of weeks, also got a deal with Disney Plus. So it's going to be shown on Disney Plus everywhere.
Bluey's now a Disney princess.
Yeah. I think Bluey's a boy.
So?
It's true. Other thing to point out, Channel 9 and Channel 7 didn't win any awards.
Boo.
ABC won 10.
Yay.
Stan got a bunch of awards for Bloom, I believe it was. And then Foxtel also won a bunch of awards.
Well, everyone hates on Foxtel, and rightfully so. Let me just say that. Rightfully so. But at the same time, they do actually produce original television shows and stuff. So, yeah.
Dramas.
Yeah.
Also find it interesting, Jenna Coleman won a Logie.
Who?
Jenna Coleman from Doctor Who.
Oh, what? Yeah, how? What?
For The Cry, which I guess was an ABC, BBC co-production.
The Cry? Never heard of it.
Yeah. Let's be honest, there's a bunch of shows on this list I haven't seen. So
let's be honest, I probably haven't seen 99% of the fucking things. The disappearance of a baby from a small coastal town in Australia is a catalyst for a journey into the disintegrating psychology of a young couple as they deal with an unthinkable ... Please click here to read more. Four episodes. So
probably
cool.
On the ABC right now.
There's a lot of shows on the ABC I would watch if I didn't hate the quality of ABC IV so much. That's my number one problem. See, I see stuff like this. I read that. I go, cool. That looks interesting. It's 4 episodes. 4 episodes sounds good. I'd be willing to check this out and watch it. Go on ABC IV. Do I want to watch it in 360p? Not really. What's my other option? Buy it on iTunes for $30. Well, I won't watch it at all then. You know, it's like, fix the fucking app.
Guys, I know you're not getting much money from the government, but you need to put some money into upgrading your streaming service.
Just make a fucking premium version for $3 a month.
I don't know if they're allowed to do that.
$2.99 a month. You get HD.
Like, I'm not sure if they're legally allowed to do that.
Why not?
Because the ABC restrictions, they're not allowed to show ads or anything. So I don't know.
It's not an ad. It's access to high definition.
But yeah. Logies. Is this the last Logies ever? Did Tom Gleeson ruin it for everybody?
I didn't know there was Logies last year, so it was the first one in 10 years as far as I was concerned.
All right. So this past week, the Avengers got a re-release, even though I don't think it ever left cinemas.
It left my cinema.
With new footage.
In quotation marks. Got
an extra 8 minutes, I think, is the number I've seen bandied about. Part of which I think is a trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home.
Far From Home, yeah.
So, is that something you expect to see more in the future? I think that everybody and their dog believes this is just a cash grab to try and pass Avatar as the highest grossing film of all time.
They fucked up. Because, of course it was... it is a cash grab. It's one I think they were allowed to have because they were so close to the number one spot. It's kind of hard to blame them for trying, you know? Like, it's an obvious cash grab, but at the same time, if you want to do the obvious cash grab and try and get that record, actually make it worthwhile. And they could have left it out of cinema for a little while longer before doing it. They didn't need to do it now. And apparently the footage that they put in, like this Hulk stuff, was unfinished and whatever else. It was quite boring and necessary and whatever else they put in. Like nothing I've read about it goes, yes, I definitely need to go to the cinema and see this. So if you wanted to do the cash grab, if you wanted to get heaps of people to return to watch it again, especially people who have probably already watched it like 3-4 fucking times, let's be real. if you want to get those people to come back and watch it again, you really needed to, whatever you added in footage-wise or whatever, you needed it to be stuff that people were like, oh my God, it's so worth going for that extra 10 minutes. But everything I've read is people just going, makes the movie worse, if anything. Like, so
Yeah.
it's not really a positive spin on it.
I don't know. Yeah. They could have just said, hey, we're going to re-release it. There's extra behind-the-scenes footage at the end of the film. Special tribute to the minor... Or some sort of panel or something. Even though the movie's like 3 hours long. Something. They are still $22 million short.
Yeah, they're
at time of recording.
Here's all you do. Here's how they made the money. The easiest way. You don't add in scenes. You just re-release it as the Infinity War, and you do a double screening.
Don't know if that counts.
Why not? It still counts. As long as you have like, they wouldn't play back to back. There'd be like a half-hour break or whatever. But Infinity War into Endgame.
I feel like they've already done a bunch of those screenings though.
Cinema chains could choose it to do themselves. They could have re-released it as a proper like.
I don't think any small cinema chains are going to do a 6 hour, 4 hour, 4.5 hour sessions. They prefer to just
people pre-order the tickets. I'll do whatever the fuck.
But yes, I honestly do expect Avengers to overtake it in the next month or two. I don't know how much longer is it going to stay in cinemas.
I'm going to say it's not. I'm going to say it's not. I'm going to say it's going to fall short. I'm going to say it comes up second. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's lost steam.
It has.
And everyone's going off to see Spider-Man now, so it's done.
That's true.
It's over.
What? It made $3 million in the US last week.
Yeah, Spider-Man's out now.
Yeah.
Check the numbers next week.
Check the numbers next episode and see where we're at.
Yeah.
So after one of those projects that's long been in gestation is an adaptation of Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Last I heard of this, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was working on it.
Yeah, that was years ago.
Trying to make a movie out of it. But it's been reported that this week it's coming to Netflix as a TV series written by with Neil Gaiman, with David Goyer on as executive producer and Alan Heinberg on as a showrunner. What's, I guess, interesting about this is technically a DC comic, I guess. It's under that umbrella.
Well,
why isn't it coming to a WB streaming service?
It was a Vertigo comic.
It was. But which is no longer a thing.
Also. Yeah.
So I guess it will be a DC thing from now on if they re-release.
Yeah. Well, that's what they said. All Vertigo comics would now just be a DC thing. But, I mean, maybe that's why it doesn't really matter, because when it was published, it was a Vertigo comic. It wasn't a DC comic. So
yeah,
maybe that's a big enough difference to get it away. Plus, maybe Neil Gaiman, even though it was published... Well, there's so many different materials for the Sandman too. I don't know how, and what rights he pertains over the different things. I was trying to look up what the original was published under, because it says publisher DC Comics 1989 originally, and then it was Vertigo in 1993, which could have been the second series, because there have been several series. It's like the Sandman Dream Hunters, the Sandman Overture, blah 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 blah. So there you go, combined publishing. But maybe Neil Gaiman, because he's a smart guy, maybe he whenever it was published, he held on to the rights for this sorts of thing. Maybe that's why he gets final say on where and what it does and where it goes. So I found it more interesting because he was having this good success with Amazon Plus, with Good Omens, obviously, which we talked about 2 episodes ago.
Weeks ago, yeah.
And now he's over here, and that's where American Gods is as well. Kinda. It's not a proper Amazon show, but that's where it ends up here, and it's like a partnership thing. And now this one's going to be on Netflix, so I find that interesting.
Yeah, definitely. It's also been reported that the deal for the series comes with a hefty unknown price tag that makes it the most expensive TV series DC Entertainment has ever produced. Which is surprising because they spent a hell of a lot of money on Swamp Thing. That's why it's not a thing anymore.
Make sure the people filling out the paperwork for Sandman know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting choice to bring this to Netflix, I think. Especially when Warner Brothers owns HBO. Unless they don't want to, like, swamp HBO. They've got the Watchmen thing coming out.
Yeah, maybe.
Or Netflix just offered a lot of money to do it.
It's a very weird property. So if they do it properly, it's going to be a very weird show, I guess. So
yeah,
it would have to fit on either a HBO or a Netflix. It was never going to work on a network show, so network channel. So
it was never going to work as a movie either. Always
too much material, probably.
Too much material, and just a bunch of smaller stories. From what I've heard, I've never read Sandman. I've got the first volume. I never read it yet.
Now you've got the time.
Not really. There's so much stuff coming out. It's hard.
Now you've got the reason.
Yeah, I guess. So then I can say they've cast the wrong person. Terrible.
Yeah. This casting choice. I read the Sandman last week, and this is wrong.
It's not my Sandman.
It's not my Sandman.
All right. Interesting news. Apparently, Sony Pictures and Hivemind are working to bring us a live-action Final Fantasy XIV TV series. Yeah, this is a thing. So it's based on Final Fantasy XIV, which is the MMO one. In that world of Ezra, it'll be following an original story exploring the struggle between magic and technology in a quest to bring peace to a land in conflict. If it's anything like the E3 trailer for the Final Fantasy XIV expansion, it'll be cool. It'll be interesting.
I haven't played Final Fantasy XIV, so I can't say too much about like the story or characters or potentiality. But you know, Final Fantasy, I'm happy for anything Final Fantasy. Let's be real. I want to see chocobos. I want to see Moogles. I want to see fucking airships. You know, there's lots of cool things. Whether or not the base story is interesting, I don't know. Time will tell. I find it interesting that it's a partnership with Sony as well. I guess that comes part of the thing that maybe it's part of the thing that I was talking about like a month or two ago when I was talking about making more TV shows. I don't know if it's part of that, but
it's a Square Enix game, so
yeah, no, that's the weird part, I guess. It's not like a Sony property.
Yeah, can you believe it's the first time it's come to Final Fantasy has come to live action? Like even in Japan, there's no live action Final Fantasy something.
Well, the Final Fantasy movie, which stars Alec Baldwin and other people. Who was in it? Let me just look at it. Alec Baldwin, Steve Buscemi. Wasn't live action, but they tried to do at the time what they considered such high quality animation that they were supposed to look real, you know? So, was it ever live action, you ask? To which I say, they tried. And they tried horribly.
Just try with actual people.
They tried horribly because it had the whatchamacallit effect. What do you call it? You know, like where you're trying to make something look real, but your brain knows it's not. So then you get that whole like weird thing. By the way, it's a very bad movie. It's a fucking horrible movie. It's not based on any particular Final Fantasy game. It was more just like taking the themes of it, I guess. I don't know. Blast from the Past. Alec Baldwin, Ving Rhames, Steve Buscemi, Donald Sutherland, James Woods, Keith David. My God, look at the stars in this movie from 2001 that you're all missing out on. That I had to watch as a child and be horribly disappointed. I saw it on the store shelf. I said, Final Fantasy. I said, Daddy, hire me the Final Fantasy movie. And I went home, watched it, and I think I fell asleep.
Okay.
So hopefully the TV series doesn't do that. There's my answer.
All right. Final news story. Apparently, there's a shortlist for Baz Luhrmann's Elvis biopic for the role of Elvis.
Elvis himself because he didn't die.
That would be a twist.
That is the ultimate.
He would
twist.
really have to slim down for the role. That might be an issue. Last we talked about this on a segment, I was under the impression that they were trying to get an unknown actor, but based on the short list, it is not. So I'll list a bunch of names and you tell me whether you think it's a good fit.
I'll give you a yay, nay, or a maybe. Let's go.
Yep. All right. Ansel Elgort from Baby Driver and Fault in Our Stars.
Maybe.
Aaron Taylor Johnson from Kick-Ass and Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Yes.
Ooh, okay. Miles Teller from Whiplash.
No.
Harry Styles from Dunkirk and also One Direction.
No, that's two on the nose. No.
Two on the nose. And the last one is Austin Butler, who is from the Shannara Chronicles. He seems to apparently he's got a role in Once Upon a Time as well. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So
I know I've watched an episode of that show, but I probably wouldn't remember him. So I don't know if I can give an answer on this one. Let's vote for that person because I don't know them.
The least, again, I don't know. None of them look like Elvis, which
that's not my problem. They
fine.
put makeup and hair and whatever else.
Yeah, I guess
it'll be fine. That's not an issue to me. You know, it's more acting chops I'm trying to think of here, or if they'll just stand out too much. That's why I'm like, Ayla Talia Johnson has a lot of range. I know he does, and I could kind of see him with the correct makeup and hair and whatever else, kind of doing it. I reckon he could pull that. Miles Teller, I'm saying no because it's Miles Teller, and I've seen him do like. I just don't think he has it within him to play this particular role. I just can't see it at all. Okay. Then obviously Harry Styles is just two on the nose because it's like you get the singer to play the Elvis and the thing. And it's like, yeah, Harry Styles. I don't know if I could put there. Don't know if that one's going to work. And then what was the first one?
A lot of tickets.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What was the first person?
Ansel Elgort.
Yeah. No. Too baby-faced.
Oh, baby. Yeah. I think only thing I've got against Aaron Taylor Johnson is he already played John Lennon in Nowhere Boy, so then to also play Elvis, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, you can do both. It's fine.
That's fine. Yeah. I hope they just scrap this list and go for an unknown or someone who can be Elvis.
That's my preferred. Val Kilmer is the best.
As long as
Elvis.
it's not like an Elvis impersonator. You know?
Well, yeah, everyone can be. There's heaps of Elvis impersonators, but if we're doing a movie, you need more than impersonator. You need an actor. Actor.
Yeah. All right, let's get into what are we end up watching this week. Dylan, what did we end up watching?
This week we watched the hit film. This Is England.
There's 3.5 million unemployed, and that Thatcher sends us on a phony war. What are you doing?
Shut up! Shut up about it.
No one's ever took a swing at me like that. It's like looking in the mirror.
Get me 100 fags and 10 cans of lager now.
There's the line, boys. Get your hands off him now! He's only to cross that line, or he's come with me.
The things you've said have made him want to stay. If you're well out of line.
People who work hard are welcome with open arms in this country.
Surely you okay?
It's the people who think we owe them a living that need to go back.
Yes, the film directed by Shane Meadows in 2006, starring Thomas Turgoose, Stephen Graham, Joe Hartley, and a bunch of other people.
Joseph Gilgan.
Okay. It tells the story of a young boy who becomes friends with a gang of skinheads. Friends soon become like family and relationships are pushed to the very limit. Dylan, you had the pick this week. Why'd you pick This Is England?
Because we'd been on a hit of horror movies and I felt like watching something. I'd been feeling like watching this again for a while for whatever reason. So because we've been watching a bunch of horror movies, I was like, I feel like watching this. It's my pick. Let's watch something I'm comfortable with. And we'll see how everyone else goes with it. Because I really like this movie. But here's my thing. This movie, I think, is great. So if you want to score, I'll give it like an 8. That's where I'm at. I think it's fantastic. And we can talk about the film a bit more in a sec. But I do need to say that when I rewatch this movie these days, because they did 3 sequel TV series after this, which I'm really attached to, and I think all of the TV series are like they're a lot different to the movie, but in some ways they're so much better because they give you more time to invest in the characters and stuff. And I would say that this is the if I can put all of the series of This Is England and the movie as like a series of things and put it all under a TV show, I would put This Is England as one of my top 10 TV shows probably. If I could include the movie as like the starting point for that sort of stuff. So when I come back and I watch the movie, I do think as it stands alone, and I remember loving it the first time I watched it before I watched the TV series following. I love it. But of course, when I'm rewatching it, I am thinking, I can't take the equation of the TV series, which I love so much, out of the equation, you know? Just worth noting.
Okay. I would argue this is also a horror film, but
What?
there is horrific things that happen in this film.
You don't know the definition of a horror movie. This is not a horror movie. What do you call this? A horror? There are horrible themes. Obviously, we're dealing with here. Like,
yeah,
that's the thing. There's nothing super graphic in it.
No.
There's nothing super scary in it. There are some intense scenes.
Yeah,
sure. Dramatic scenes. Sure. IMDb says it's a crime drama. I feel like that's fine.
No, I'm just trying to get a rise. I enjoyed it overall. I thought Thomas Turgus was pretty solid for a young child actor. I don't know how old he's supposed to be in this film. It's
12, 13, something like
thank
that.
God, because he makes out with an older girl and it would look very awkward. It felt awkward.
Yeah, he's like 12, 13 and she's like 18, I think. So
yeah, still awkward, but not as awkward as it could be. I think coincidentally, just like When They See Us, this is very relevant for today. Pretty much all the things, especially that nationalist scene that they shoot like halfway through the film, feels like some stuff they talked about during the Brexit thing over in England. So I guess they won in the end.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really solid. I think probably the standout, unsurprisingly, is Stephen Graham as Combo. He was really interesting to watch, even though he kind of goes off the rails towards the end. Yeah,
He was always off the rails.
He snaps.
He was always the thing. Everyone compares this movie to the Australian one about Nazis.
Romper
The
Stopper.
Russell Crowe one. Romper Stomper. Everyone compares this to Romper Stomper, but Romper Stomper, I don't want to say it's like pro Nazism or something like that. But the way the movie's put together, it definitely falls in line. You could argue that it's a lot heavily more like plays up that lifestyle and stuff is cool and exciting, I guess. You know, I definitely feel like this movie doesn't play that up, and it just kind of shows how easily a kid could get swept into that world when he has no friends, and you have someone like Combo saying, "Your dad he died for these reasons, and like now look what's happening, fucking people coming in taking over a country, blah blah." You know, like it that's the whole thing of the movie. I don't feel like it definitely doesn't go like, you know what's cool? Being a nationalist. It kind of says, it plays up the other side though. It does, like the first 20 minutes or so of the film, it does show you that the original group he gets with, which includes Joseph Gilgun's character Woody.
Yep.
Who they're more like skinheads as a
Statement.
Like as a statement, I guess. I mean, they've got some of it,
As
but
a
they're
style
not
choice.
racist. Yeah, it's like being a goth, I guess, at that point to them somewhat. You know, it's like a punk thing, I guess, for them is the way you go about it some way. That sort of stuff they are like, this seems fun, this seems great. But as the film progresses and you get into like real skinhead shit, the film's never like, this is cool. This is exciting. This is the world you want to be in. But there's one, like they have this, I mean, it's not like heavy spoilers. I don't think it matters. But like the scene where they get this dude to come down and speak to them all or whatever, like from some political party or whatever it was supposed to be. I still that like rings quite relevant too, because they're like, they call us racist. We're not racist. We're nationalists. We're you know, all this sort of stuff. Literally verbatim, nearly what you hear a lot of people today. It was
almost a Trump rally.
Yeah, it basically is almost a Trump rally because they say basically the same sorts of shit these days. You know, like Proud Boys or whatever, that gang over in America, like a big Trump fan right wing parties and stuff. They say pretty much the same sort of shit when people are like, "You're racist, you're like semi Nazis," and they're like, "We're not Nazis, we're just nationalists." Like it's basically the same regurgitated shit that they say.
Nazis. It's a different word. It means the same thing.
It's the same thing. Like we don't hate all non-white people, just 99% of them. So, but yeah, I feel like overall, I just think it's a really well written movie. Like all the characters are really put together well, I think, and that's one of the reasons I was attached to it. I think the story is like super interesting. I think it's a time period that's super interesting, especially like also from like a viewpoint that like growing up in Australia and stuff like. Even though this is like a couple years before I was born, sort of thing, I wasn't super aware of, I guess,
the Falklands War,
what was going on then. You know what I mean?
Never heard of the Falklands War before.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it kind of opens your eyes to certain sorts of things that are quite good. And then I would say that if you enjoyed the movie and its characters, to bring back the TV shows, I would highly suggest that you go check out This Is England 86, which is also on Stan, which is where we watch this. There is a total of 3 TV series. So you got This Is England 86, This Is England 88, and This Is England 90 was the final. That's it. There's no more after that one. And I watched that. I remember watching that when it dropped a couple of years ago, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so sad. All these characters, I'm never going to get to see them again." Because by the time you get to that final season, I would compare, you know, Skins. Like that TV show Skins. And a lot of people love that, especially its first 2 seasons. Like people love the first 2 seasons because after that they switch characters and stuff like that. And people are quite attached to those characters. When I was growing up, like when I was in high school, a bunch of girls, a bunch of guys loved those first 2 seasons of Skins and always be talking about those characters and how the rest of the show is shit and stuff like that. I would say that This Is England TV show series is my Skins to a degree.
Okay.
Because the characters that introduce you and the characters that carry over and the most relevant throughout the TV series are Woody, his girlfriend Lowell. Obviously, Sean comes back. Milky, all these characters. It's those core
Milky
group,
lives?
but it's
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Milky does live. I'll say like not big spoiler, but Combo does show up at some point in the TV series again, and you get to find out what exactly happens with him. But he's not a main character in the shows. The shows basically are more like if you love the first half of this movie and basically seeing Sean get to be with these characters and stuff, which is really good because like this
that is arguably my preferred half of the movie.
Yeah, my favorite thing about this the first time I watched it was the first thing I ever saw Joseph Gilgun in. And then he would later appear and take over in Misfits.
Yep.
And then he would, more recently, he's in Preacher and stuff. So, but I've always been a big fan of his from this movie the first time I watched it. I love him in this and he always continues on to be great. But you get to see so much more of him in those TV shows and what his character goes through. And also seeing like Sean grow up because obviously he's 12, 13 here. The show's like skips ahead. He's like older now. He's finishing school. What happens then? What happens with all these kids who were pretty much nearly somewhat brainwashed into like Nazis? I guess like what happens with them? How do they get along with life? How does like Milky deal with what happened to him? So I'd highly suggest checking those out. But as the movie stands by itself, I think I'd say it's a must watch. Like if you're like, you know how sometimes you have those boxes you can tick, like, do you think this is a movie that everyone should watch? I'd say yeah. Like, don't need a big downfall for me for this movie. The only thing I could really knock it for is it's made on the cheap and it looks it. But like that's just a matter of fact. I'm sure if Shane Meadows had more money, he would have liked more money and he would have preferred to have made it look a bit better. But the fact is,
I mean, it looks like something that was released in '83.
Yeah.
So it's got that going for it.
It's a cheap
movie. It's a stylistic choice.
It's held up by the performances and the writing, I feel. And Shane Meadows continued over the years to prove that he could write these characters quite well and continue them on. So this is your starting point. This is season 1.
All right.
Of This Is England. I will say, as soon as the movie finished, it was fucking 12:30. And if it hadn't have been 12:30, I think I would have just started the TV series straight away. Okay. And I may still go rewatch it all. That's how much I enjoy this run from start to finish. Like what they do and put these characters through and stuff. Okay. So, look forward to that. This is my pitch for everyone. Is everyone listening? You may not have heard of This Is England, the movie, also known as season 1 of This Is England, the TV series. Let me pitch it to you now. It's fantastic. It's great. It's my skins. It's one of the best TV shows of all time. You can watch it. It's all on standby the last season, which is where you get fucked.
All right. Well, I guess you can look forward to that on future episodes of What Do You Want to Watch? That brings us to the end of this episode. Dylan, where can people find you on Twitter and Trakt, the awesome TV and movie tracking service?
All of the things at Viva La Deal, where you can feel free to ask me any questions about the This Is England TV series, which is my favourite character. When you watch it all, you can feel free to ask me what I feel about the situation that happens with Lowell and Woody by the end of the TV show. I mean, no spoilers, but I do have opinions, just saying. Okay.
You can follow me on those places at Ashley Hobley, ASHLEY. ASHLEY. It's been a long day. You can also follow the Explosion Network, which this is a part of, at Explosion Pod on Twitter. Check out YouTube at youtube.com/Explosion Network to find a review discussion for Spider-Man Far From Home, or just go to explosionnetwork.com. Find all our podcasts, all our reviews there. If you really want to help us out, leave us a review on Podchaser, on Apple Podcasts, or other places that do reviews for podcasts. I don't know if there are anymore. But if you can't do that, just tell a friend that this is the best This Is England fan cast available.
Mail a letter to my mum so she knows I'm not wasting my days away.
All right. Thanks for listening. And until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
Every trophy counts. Don't be told otherwise. Join myself and Ash each Tuesday when a shiny new episode of Platinum Explosion dings into podcast feeds. The #1 PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias breaks down all the latest in PlayStation related news, releases, trophy lists, and much, much more. Just search your podcast app for Platinum Explosion and subscribe for free now. We should do a This Is England podcast.
We'll do a This Is England segment on each episode for the next.
I mean, there's only a total of, what would it be? 12 episodes? For the whole show?